Welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show with my co-host, the one, the only, the Branthopist herself, Yolanda M. Smith. And on the opposite side of me, the award-winning author, Finding My Hero Within, the one, the only, Amy Thurman. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you. Hello. Yes.
Let's do it like this. We already know about Yolanda. So let's start.
Did he just give me the hand?
Yeah. We know about Yolanda.
We know about Yolanda.
We know about it. We're gonna go back with Yolanda in a minute. Let's talk about our celebrity co-host. Tell the viewers a little bit about you, Amy, before we get started with the show.
Well, first I want to say thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here. I know a little bit about the Beast mindset, and so I love to help to be here and to promote that. I am a motivational speaker, a best-selling author, a podcast host, and a mom who has lived the past 10 years with a broken neck that went undetected for 6 months. And instead of ending my life, decided to reclaim my life and wrote a book about it, and here I am.
That's amazing.
That's amazing. Now let's go over to the queen herself.
6 months though, with a broken neck, that had to hurt.
Yolanda M. Smith, the Branthopist. Where you been?
You know what? All over the globe.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm gonna start calling you the international Yolanda M. Smith, the Branthopist.
Oh, you so sweet.
All over social media. She's over in London. She's in Paris. She's in the Dominican. I mean, like, dang. What else you been doing?
And the U.S. You know what? I've been working on a lot of things. Doing the corporate thing, doing the entrepreneur, helping entrepreneurs. Yes, to actually get and stay in business. By unleashing their brand, but also building some business structure and then empowering people with access to their rights. That's a big thing right now. You know, we live in a different time where we got to protect ourselves and know that we have access to legal services when we need them. Don't wait, but you shouldn't wait till you need it to get it. So I've been working with Legal Shield and really helping small businesses primarily, and individuals to really, you got it.
I know.
Yeah, you got it. Because we need to be protecting our intellectual property and things of that nature. We've got to make sure our contracts are tight, in full transparency. I was just sharing with Amy, my first year in business, going from corporate to entrepreneurship, I lost $45,000 because I had raggedy paperwork. That's what I call it, raggedy paperwork. When you got those loopholes and people find the loopholes and they'll jump through the loopholes. But we got a great guest, so it's not about me today.
Hold that thought. You damn right we had a great guest today. He's been on season 1 with us, author of the book In the Midst of the Storm, which was a really powerful book.
Yes.
I must say, definitely a bestseller, a must read. But he's back to bring another side of not only his ability to be a great author, but his ability to recognize a need. And right now, just what you said, even dealing with contracts, dealing with be proactive now as a entrepreneur, not even just entrepreneur, but just being proactive in everything that you're doing. Today, we have on the show again, back by popular demand, Roderick Skip Johnson. And when we did the pre-interview, actually before we did the pre-interview, he contacted me and said, Dre, I need to get this out because his strategy on what he sees is happening in society with government, with entrepreneurships, with jobs, with the mental situation. I said, you know what, it's a must. Let's have him back on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's welcome Mr. Skip Roderick Johnson to the show. What's up, big dog?
Hey, Andre, great morning, first of all.
Yes.
I'm saying great morning because if we look at life, right, and just talking about the things that we're doing, just say right now, going into the holiday season, things of uncertainty and so forth, that we need to really think about some of the things that you and I talked about in some conversation, how we need to change this narrative.
Right.
Okay, as we move forward, just really changing this narrative. We spend too much time minimizing things. Like most people say good morning. You notice I said great morning.
Right.
Okay. And it's a great morning for me because guess what? I woke up this morning.
Right.
So it's a great day. Okay. A lot of people didn't wake up.
Right.
And so forth. And I share that with you because I'm very transparent. I just had a cousin who had just turned 60 on the 7th of November. He was gone on the 15th of November after a walk.
Wow.
as well, passed away. So you think about how we take that 86,400 for granted. That's the amount of seconds in one day. We just take that for granted. So most people just say good morning. I say great morning because it's a great morning that I'm alive.
Right.
And so when we start looking at it and looking at it from that perspective, what are we doing to celebrate our life? That's the most important thing that we have to talk about, that celebration in life. Because right now what we're seeing, and I'm hearing a lot of conversations, and like the conversation you and I were talking about in regards to, what's going to happen in the next 4 or 5 years.
Right.
I'm like, I really don't know what's going to happen, but the question is, what are you doing to make it happen in your life?
Ooh,
And that's the most important thing. What are you doing? And so when we start thinking about that and just thinking about changing the conversation, once you change the conversation, you change the narrative.
Right.
So when you start changing the narrative for the things that we're hearing right now, I'm hearing so many conversations about taking healthcare away, taking food stamps, all these different things. Okay. But what the question I bring to people all the time is this: why are you allowing the system to dictate your life versus you empowering yourself? You wait on the system to empower you versus empowering yourself. So we start talking about that personal empowerment, which is the key. That's the key to living. Mm-hmm. Because when we talk about living and just looking at it from that perspective, we got so many people that's trying to add years to their life. Well, guess what they forget to do? Add life to their years.
Skip, before we get any deeper, tell the viewers a little bit about your background. Who are you, so they can understand why this is an important message? Because just listening to what we might call anybody, you don't really register the information. We live in a world where credibility,
correct,
justifies whether or not I'm listening to you. Period. Tell the viewers a little bit about you before we get deeper.
Okay. Well, I've been serving in, I could say, the behavior modification space or behavioral health for over 40 years. And with that, I've served 24 years in the military, and I was a suicide prevention manager, and I work on the federal side as a suicide prevention manager as well. But, with that, just looking at some of the things that people have to deal with, I deal with policy for the federal government. I write programs for the federal government. I do a lot of things with the communities as well, trying to empower people so they can get away from what I call myself talking about investigating suicides as people making a permanent solution to a temporary problem. So I always want to try to get people and specialize in enhancing protective factors to mitigate risk factors. And, a lot of times we tend to talk about risk factors and so forth, but we don't spend a lot of time talking about protective factors. So in other words, what I'm saying is that for me, my journey is to get people to empower themselves, to people to start saying yes to their life. That's the most important thing. We spend too much time talking about all the negative stuff, but we don't get people their flowers. Like I'm gonna give Yolanda her flowers. Yolanda, them shoes are slamming. I'm just gonna let you know that. A lot of people don't give people what? Their flowers when they're alive, but they're quick to talk about people when they're gone. They can't hear you.
You know what, Skip? It's so funny. I posted something about that like 2 weeks ago, and I can tell it was deep because the people that understood it came at it with a simple, I understand or thank you. Then you had a few that came with all kind of negative.
Oh, about the flowers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, why you give me flowers? How come they're not real, right?
Why ain't they real? Or they could mean this. Okay, well, that's not what that thing said. It said exactly what you said, Skip. How about just appreciating the fact that somebody took the time to think about you, to say hi, give you a flower. It doesn't have to be a meaning. But let's go back to what you just said, too, before you introduced yourself. You talked about two things that I'm very big on. I think it needs to change. And it all starts with policy. But let's go even deeper than this. The system has always been a crippling device for the minorities and let's just call it like this, the white people. Where at one point the system is designed to elevate the white race, it's still a crippling factor to the minority race, and this has been going on since the 1700s, and it's still going on. How do we change, which creates a mindset in the minority? It creates a set to where the system in its policy alone has us conditioned for so long that we feel we need to be on SNAP. We feel we need the housing assistance and all this. Why hasn't policy changed?
The policy hasn't changed, but I'm gonna tell you what it has changed. It's buzzwords, okay? You know, like people say now, when we start talking about disparities and so forth, the buzzword now is called underserved communities. You see what I'm saying?
I got you.
Okay, underserved communities. So with that is, you're talking about access to different things and so forth versus things that are always in place, things that are there that people have pretty much become complacent with. And that is so important to understand. When we start talking about that complacency is you start talking about SNAP and food stamps, this and that and so forth. You know, it's kind of funny how it works. A lot of times we talk about kids. I'm going to use kids as a vehicle. Okay, a lot of times parents are looking to get their kids on these different SSI checks and so forth, so I can receive X amount of dollars, not understanding that you just put a glass ceiling on your child. Right. You know, for minimal income, just minimal money that's coming in, and so you can get to a point where I cannot make a certain amount of money because it's going to take me off, but then again, as long as I stay within these parameters, that's steady income coming in. You know, I had a lot of people having conversations, talking about just, you know, I'm not really getting into politics, this and that or whatever, but a lot of people having conversations about the stimulus check and this and that or whatever. The question I asked was, what was you doing with that stimulus check to become a better version of yourself?
Wow.
No,
I love
we
that.
were becoming more consumers.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was more consumer. I bet you, if you go look at that, and between that and those PPP loans, the people that actually use those in the way it was intended, that percentage is probably so low it would be alarming.
Yeah.
To wonder why did we do that? Why did we even give it if that was the way it was going to be utilized, right?
Just enabling people.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, they probably gave it out because I kind of understand what you're saying, Roderick. It's a way to later go back and say, okay, well, we tried to help them out and they did exactly what we thought they were going to
do. Exactly. What happened was, you think about, we live in a capitalistic mindset, right? Society. And with that, in that capitalistic society, what we tend to be is consumers. Okay. I know people that were going out spending $100. I have a nephew who did this. It's a true story. Now, my nephew was going out buying Gucci socks at $100 a pair because the stimulus check was coming in. And I'm like, son, I can afford Gucci socks, but I'm not wearing Gucci socks. I go straight to Walmart or whatever. It's not a big deal.
Right.
But we start looking at different things that's going to try to validate our existence and so forth from a societal norm. There's a model that I teach behavioral health technicians all the time, and people that work in the field of suicide prevention. Because I actually spoke at a DoD VA conference in Portland in June, and one of the things I talked about was that how we look at individuals, how we teach technicians, and how we teach people in behavioral health is a social ecological model. And what it is, you're supposed to look at the person, then you look at the family, then you look at the peers, the community, and then society. But unfortunately, because of unconscious bias that we have, and everybody does have unconscious bias. Don't ever think you don't.
That's
you do.
Right. That's
and we
right.
filter things in. But when we talk to individuals, what we look at is what society dictates who they are. Then we look at the community they're in. Then we may go down to who their peers and who they hang out with. Then we look at the family, but we never look at the individual. We never get there because we've already made an assumption of who that person is. So when we start doing that and we start doing things like that, we miss the boat all the time. And you think about how many times we filter things in. When I was talking about that unconscious bias, I could say fish, and I could say fish, and somebody may say fish and grits. Depends on where you're from. Somebody may say fish and chips, and so forth. But so we always filter things in. So we hear people, but we don't listen with that. And so we put people into a box. every single time. You have to be very cognitive of the boxes that you're putting people in. Very cognitive of that.
What is the strategy? What is the strategy, Skip, that we need to focus on to get out of this situation that we're in?
Having meaningful conversations. First of all, there's two words that I used to always talk about. It's two words is this right here. They have the exact same letters. And these two words are listen and silent. Have the exact same letters. We need to listen to people and be silent sometimes and let them tell their truth. It's not their story, it's their truth.
Mm-hmm.
Just being silent. Okay, and having meaningful, respectful conversations. We can agree to disagree, but have those conversations. And so now we can create a narrative that works for both of us.
And so when you think about that, that's powerful, because so often what I think happens is people don't listen. What they do is they try to problem solve. So as soon as you say something's going on in your life, the person is trying to tell you what you need to do or what you didn't do or what you should do versus really hearing you. And this goes back for decades, but it really was prominent after the George Floyd murder, because it was a time where you could start some conversations, but it was also saying, I just want you to hear me. I don't want you to react. I don't want you to fix me. At this point, I just want you to hear me. But that is a tough thing, because if you think about what you're talking about with the government and so forth, you're talking about something that at this point in time is systemic. And when something is systemic, that's like having an infection in a way, you know what I mean? And literally saying, how do we clean out this infection? Because what should have been a transition program, right? That should have been a transition program. There's working poor. There are people that need help every now and then. You can be transitioning from a job. You could have gotten ill or anything. You had these services to help you for a period of time, but what was supposed to be a transition became permanent, because it appears to me, in the research I've done, it helped to break up the family of a lot of minority communities. And so you couldn't even get the services unless the father was absent from the picture, couldn't be living in the household. It was destruction. I don't know what question I was asking, but boy, I
like where you was going.
I know. I want to put a spin on this if I can.
I totally agree. And I tell you this, okay, like I said, I've been serving the federal government almost 40 years. And with that, we are conditioned to problem solve. Okay. And like you said, we don't listen. We hear you. Most of the time when people are talking to you, you are already trying to think of a solution, because we feel like we have to give them a solution. The truth of the matter is this: most people don't care what you want about you solving the issue. They just want you to listen. And most people don't do what?
Listen. Yeah.
We don't listen. And so we walk around and we're talking about how we listen and how we see things. We have judgmental eyes and we have judgmental ears. We filter everything in. And so we filter things in like that. Unfortunately, we are always missing the mark. We hear you, but I'm not really listening. I hear you.
Amy, you said there was something you wanted to say.
I said I want to put a spin on this.
Okay.
Skip, you mentioned mindset earlier, and I think that plays a huge role in this. And I just want to bring attention to people like me who are out there who I live on disability. Like, I have lived with a broken neck for 10 years, and I have to rest my neck every day, so I can't hold down a typical job. So I live on disability. But I use it wisely. I use it for my benefit, and I don't take advantage of it. And I still am bettering myself. I heard you say, that I'm advocating for myself and I'm doing what I can to better myself. And I just want to draw attention to the people out there who are like that, who are not just taking advantage of the system, but are also using it for their benefit and to help other people as well.
Yeah, no, it makes sense, because one of the things we see sometimes in the minority communities is when it becomes cyclical, it becomes generational, that instead of trying to figure out the betterment, they they feel like that's the way of life, and in some cases that's how it's supposed to be.
That's
because
right.
grandma was on welfare, mama was on welfare, then welfare's supposed to be what I do too. That's how we get money, because sometimes there's a lack of a word that I feel like I strongly need to use, and that's hope. Some people don't see hope for themselves, and so imagine we're asking people to change a mindset that has been ingrained in them. Those limiting beliefs are so powerful because they've seen it for generations. I mean, how do we break out of that? I mean, that is, disability is one thing, but when you really talk about some of the government assistance that was more designed to inhibit versus help.
Right. Yes.
That's what I think. That's where we're coming. That's the angle here.
Yeah.
Skip, I got a question to ask you. You're involved with government and policy, and I think I agree with both of you, but it goes back to, I agree with what Skip says. Only time you're going to be able to change anything is the two factors: being able to listen, being able to communicate, and more importantly, you got to start with policies. Policies is what we need, but we got a new president coming in office. Definitely things are going to change. People are in a fearful mindset right now. It's almost like the grab and run syndrome. You see everybody trying to, especially people of color, they're trying to gravitate to any. I seen a guy on TikTok with a Lamborghini car. I'm thinking to myself, he's like 20 some years old. Dude, how the hell did you get a Lamborghini car? And the thing is falling apart on him. And I'm thinking to myself, what Skip said, what can that car do for you now? But he hasn't even realized the strain that car has cost him, because it's already in the shop 3 times. But he's constantly buying things to fix it. So my question to you is, Skip, with knowing that there's a fear factor already set in with government and federal policies being in place, how do we change the narrative, the mindset of individuals that's still going out gravitating to materialistic things and still investing in materialistic things versus trying to understand the big picture?
I'm glad you said that. I had a conversation yesterday with somebody about, we were just talking about what's, the way ahead, what might happen and so forth. And the thing is, what I asked him is, what are you doing to change your narrative? Okay, and I'm bringing it home because I was a female I was talking to, a sister I was talking to about this. And I asked the question. I said, well, how often do you get your nails done a month? She said, well, 2 to 3 times. I said, okay. I said, how often do you get your hair done a month? 2 to 3 times. I said, okay. The question I have for you is this. I see what you invested into your hands. I see what you invested on top of your head. Okay, I see that. All right. Okay, but what is that doing for you as an individual? And this is my whole point of what I was trying to get at. I say, instead of doing it 2 to 3 times a month, maybe do it 1 time, and so forth, and take that money that you was giving to your hairstylist and your nail tech or whatever, and why don't you invest it into Delta or American Airlines, where the shares are $12 or $15 a share?
Now Skip.
You don't open up Pandora's box over here,
hold
Skip.
Up now, Skip.
Thin water right there.
You barking up a tree now. Watch what you're doing here. Depends on what you do.
Okay,
Depends on what you do.
Okay.
Now, I get my hair done every week, okay? But
Right.
I'm out here in the public eye, and I got to look at... Go ahead.
I think, but that enhances your intellectual property. I'm not talking about from that perspective. Okay, that goes with that territory. I got that. I understand that.
Okay.
But we have a lot of people out there on assistance. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
There's on assistance who are doing this that you do to enhance your brain and your branding, like you said before.
Okay,
It's a big difference.
that's right. Because this is what I ask them. You know what I ask them? The question is do you want to look rich or do you want to be rich?
Be rich, yeah.
Because so
That's
many
good.
people, and you're spot on here. I just wanted to just keep it clear, though. There's some of us that need to do that, right? But but the reality is that so many people will invest on themselves
And not in themselves.
And we have that conversation relentlessly, because think about it. If you invest in yourself and you get yourself the appropriate skill sets and build proper connections and relationships, you can put yourself in a position to be able to have many things, right? Or to be in places and position to be tapped on the shoulder for things you do. But if you're not willing to do that and you just want to look good, but yet you're not doing anything to further your professional development, I'm a true believer that literally your professional, your success rarely exceeds your professional development. Because if you're not putting anything in the bank, you don't have anything to withdraw, right? You don't have anything to withdraw. So, yeah, I got you.
So, Skip, my question is not to cut you off from finishing up the one conversation, but you just focus on something. You deal with this constantly by teaching how to build your brand. Skip, you deal with it on a mental and on a government and federal level. But the thing is, we all know this shit. That's not the problem. You probably get that every time you teach in a class. You hear that all the time in the government and federal. And the tripped out part about it, the government knows this. They know you're not going to invest in yourself. You can talk it all day long. We have this mindset, like Skip said, that this is the thing I'm going to ask you, Skip. I can ask you this because you deal with this. Even with the point of suicide. Suicide usually means there's an emptiness in a part of your life that you felt you needed a permanent solution. Everybody wants to invest in themselves to some degree, whether it be having a house, a car, they want something. But the question to you, Skip, is why is there such a mental block that they are too afraid to take if they make $10, they can't put $2 into themselves?
Yolanda already said it, okay? We spend too much time, and I'm going to say this, we spend too much time investing on ourselves, clothes, cars, stuff like that, right? And we think that's an investment, right? Instead of investing in ourselves and our intellectual property. And I tell people, we start with, people spend X amount of dollars on all these clothes, this and that or whatever. Some people have to do it for their branding. I got that.
Yeah.
But the ones who can't really, who need to be put in it elsewhere, I tell them, you really want to know what that shirt, purse, or whatever truly costs? Go and buy it. Go and pay that price that you're going to pay for it, and then put it in a garage sale. Let's see how much you get for it then.
Okay.
That's good. That's good.
Well, if it can't retain its value, it's worthless. Yeah. That's true. No.
So we sometimes we're invested in things, not understanding what it's doing is helping the rich get richer and the poor is getting poor. And you think about how money circulates. And when I talk about how money circulates, and this is so phenomenal to me. They say it circulates in the Asian community for 28 days. Circulates in the community for 28 days. So when people going to get their nails done, whatever, that money's going to stay in that community 28 days. It tends to circulate in a white community for 19 days. 26 in the Jewish community. But what is so astronomical, what's so crazy to me is in the African American community, it circulates 6 hours.
Wow. I know I had heard something like it, they were talking about, and I think it was the Jewish community, like it changes 8 hands before it turns to 8 times before it ever gets out of the community. So no matter whether you're going to a restaurant, a laundromat, the hair salon, the dry cleaners or whatever, it circulates 8 times before it ever leaves the community. And yet
before it leaves
yeah.
Exactly. Now we talk about economic power. In 2023, the Black economic power was $1.8 trillion.
You're right. I just saw that. Dr. George Fraser. Yep, I just saw that.
But we talking about the top 3 things that we consume are salty products, sodas, and vegetables. The last time I checked, all that end up in the same place, which is the toilet.
In the toilet, yep.
And diabetes. Medical health, medical problems.
Yeah,
right.
Creates issues.
But the bigger picture is once again, I'm going to say this over and over again. We know this shit. Why ain't we amplifying it? Like, we know this. And more importantly, why is there such a, because it stems from generation to generation. I get that. And you would think that somewhere along the path, somebody has figured out a solution. Me and you talked about this. We use a rapper, for instance. They got all the cars. I won't mention his name because I don't want to get smacked by a rapper on my show. But, you know, you're flossing $1 billion cars and you own 100 acres. And me and you talked about this. If you just put some vegetables on half of those acres, you can change the community. If you put a structure on there for economic development, meaning schools or institution, you can change the narrative. So what I'm asking from you, because you have the mindset, you deal with this, why isn't that people that have these resources, the people in the community, we won't mention their names, and don't get me wrong, I'm not bashing success by any means. But when I see that you have means to change the narrative, which is what we're talking about, why don't people do that? I mean, what's the fear factor here? Is this still going back to the crab in the bucket syndrome? Because trust me, if I had these individuals' money and 100 acres and a mule, I'm getting ready to change the whole economy. I'm going to build Andre Crayton City. We're going to have our own bank. We're going to have our own vegetables. We're going to have our own meat.
It sounds good in theory. Sounds good in theory.
So how do we
Some people ain't going to let you have all that, first of all.
If we rally together, like Skip just said, we spend billions of dollars. That's a lot of fucking power. If you can come together and make people realize financial literacy, it can change the face. So what do you think is a handicap? This is professional. What do you think is a handicap we're dealing with?
One of the handicaps that we're dealing with, and you pretty much, if you think about what you just said, we don't have the ability, or we don't know how to come together. And I will say that again, coming together to leverage off each other. Just say, for instance, if you were in California, you have Chinatown, you have Greek Town, okay? You may have Asian Town or whatever, Korean Town, okay? And then when we start talking about us, what do we say?
Nothing.
The hood.
The hood.
The hood. You see? Now, if you look at that, and we start going back to the circulation of money, this and that, in those towns, that money circulates. In our neighborhoods, our money don't circulate, period. We always giving it out. We are always outsourcing our money. So maybe if we could develop a system, you know, that we could start actually utilizing our money to benefit us. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking about just being beneficial. And they say that, yes, that's a great concept, just matter whatever. What does it take? It takes folks to stop talking about it and do something about it. Right. It takes action, in other words.
But when you think about what the obstacles, when you think about what the obstacles would be, because let's take it back. At one point, we had all that. You know that. Black Wall Street, that was all in place. And it was destroyed. Because it's not, and here's the thing I would say, yes, we can come together too, but we're going to be met with some opposition. It's not like people want us to be in a position of power. There's always those dynamics of control. Always the dynamics of control. And then when you talk about, let me just say this though, when you talk about the rapper and what they have and whatever, and I know who you're talking about, I ain't going to mention it, but here's the thing. Do they feel like that's their responsibility? That's the other thing you got to think about. Is that their responsibility? Because
it is. And I'm going to tell you the reason why. It is your responsibility because your ancestors went through a lot to get you in the position to be where you at. Whether they had to go through the system, whether you had to do something you wasn't supposed to do, your ancestors did far worse. Yeah, it's no more different than your children. You just said that. You want your kids to have the opportunity, or what we might call, you want a leverage. You now have a leverage position. You have the duty to give back to your community. We see it all the time. Skip just said it. In the Asian community, we see it in the Hispanic community. We see it in every community around but our own community. So yeah, you have a responsibility. What do you think, Skip?
What I'm going to say is this. Okay. And the best way I can look at it from this perspective right here, we could do better. It's not talking about, it depends on what you're giving back. Okay,
Right.
so now we're thinking, talking about the money aspect of, why not give back the intellectual property and let me show you how I got what I got?
Thank you. That's what I meant.
Okay.
Give away knowledge.
Okay, right. So when we start doing that, we are reaching one, teaching one.
Right.
And then we are creating a chain to reach one and teach one. But unfortunately, what most people do is look at what I call the frame, just the frame. What you have, where you live, where you work, that's the frame. That frame can change at any given time, depends on circumstances. But then the question is, are you teaching people how, you say, to look at the picture? And when you look at the picture, I'm looking at those strokes. That's the different things I've dealt with in life. You know, how this brush went this way and it should have went another way. Are we talking about those narratives? Are we being transparent that way? We're always talking about what we have, but we're not telling people how we got it.
Right.
Right.
You know, and we have to go away from that mindset where, you know, I don't mind being transparent. Like we have this saying that we say all the time that, you know what, instead of giving people fish, we're going to teach them how to fish.
Right.
The question I have for everybody is, what are you doing to teach somebody how to fish? I don't care if you're a painter. You know, if you're a painter, can I show somebody else how to paint?
That's right.
Okay. It
that's
doesn't
powerful.
matter. So you create a let system. You know, can we leverage off each other? And we don't leverage off each other. We try to keep it all to ourselves.
Right.
You know, look at me. Versus saying, you know what?
Where
Let
did
me
they
show you
tell
what
us
I
it could
do.
only be one? Where did they tell it? Because I was in corporate America, and I'm gonna be honest. Sometimes the biggest people that I faced were people of my color that could
Everything.
potentially have helped me. Instead, chose not to. You know what I mean? Not that they had an obligation to. Not that they had an obligation to, but became more opposition than not. So that makes sense. And the thing I tell people all the time is when we talk about generational wealth, we're not talking about money necessarily. I mean, money's a component of it, but it's how do you get it? How do you leverage your resources and know how to do it? See, because that's another thing we've got to teach the community is the value and the complexities of money, not just the dollar bill, but how to invest it. What does insurance look like? What does property look like? What does, you know, there's 8 streams of income. How do you have a play in each of these streams of income? We don't teach that, right? You know, and instead it's make your money, spend your money, and then you're supposed to save some for a rainy day, which I think is the craziest limiting belief ever. You don't save it for a rainy day. No, you invest it so you ain't got to have a rainy day. How about that? You know, I mean, but it's not just the financial piece. It is that intellectual property that if you teach them skills and show them how to be resourceful, we don't lack resources. We lack resourcefulness. You know, but if we can teach them these things, they can fend for themselves and be able to survive and thrive. You know what I mean? In whatever condition, because we'll be long gone at some point. I mean, I'm not going to be here forever.
You know, they do teach that in school. There are schools where they have to teach personal finance. They have to teach them those kind of things, but the students don't understand the importance of it. Like Skip was saying, it's about a mindset thing.
Not all schools. Not all schools.
In Oklahoma, they teach that.
They took that out of the school. We used to have to know how to fill out a check. We knew what a balance in a check, but you don't get that in school. They don't even cursive write anymore. No, it's like
they teach individuals how to be a laborer and not an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. Well, that's been for years.
Let me clear something up. I didn't mean to say what I said about when you said, do we owe something? We do owe something. We owe the ability to share knowledge. Is what I was saying. We like the knowledge, and without the knowledge, you can't do anything. But Skip, I want to move forward before we wrap up. I want to talk about Henry.
Okay. Well, 2 things I want to say. Well, most people see talking about financial literacy. Okay, what we are taught in the schools that I went to was earned income. When I got in college and to say professionally, I started learning about investment income. Right, but we don't know anything about. Most people don't know anything about passive income.
Right.
You know, and so with that, we most of the time, like you said, we are conditioned to be consumers. Okay, but we are consuming, we are buying things that has no real value most of the time. Just being that consumer and so forth. And that's what you talk about when I can say you can tie that into Henry's. Okay, Henry is an acronym. All right, there's two kind of Henrys I know. Okay, you have people that have high earnings with no residual yield. All they do is spend everything they got, make a whole lot of money. It could be that top 10% in the African American community, or the top 8% making over six figures or whatever. That's the first kind of Henry. Everything I have is going out. It's not investing into myself and so forth. It's pretty much looking at that shell, in other words. And then the other Henry, which to me is the scariest Henry that I know. Okay. And what that is, they have high expectations with no residual yield. That's the people that I call my palms up people. They want you to take care of them. They want you to do this, that, or whatever. And all these different things, and not understanding that now what it does, and it's almost like high maintenance, in other words. And what it does, it can change your DNA. If you're not careful, especially in relationships. If you're in a relationship with a Henry who has high expectation with no residual yield, in other words, that you are taking care of them, but you're not getting nothing in return, 9 times out of 10, it's going to change your DNA. And that's another acronym that I use all the time. And what that D is all about is, guess what? You don't do the things that you used to do anymore because they feel a certain way about that. The N is all about the N is all about your network. I don't interact with the people that I was interacting with before that celebrated me because they tend to have problems with those individuals. But that last A is the most important thing that you have to consider. What it is, it limits my altitude, in other words. I get distracted. I'm not moving forward. I'm right here. I'm dealing with this mediocrity, trying to make this person feel a certain kind of way. And say, when you start looking at Henrys like that, because in order for a person to fly, say airplane to fly, it's 4 variables you have to understand. It's lift, thrust, okay? And it's lift, thrust, and drag. What's 4 of them? It drag, right? The thing is, you gotta think about, people, right, that drag you down, and people that thrust you forward. People that lift you up, but then so you also know people that what? They keep to bring you always down. They don't motivate you at all. And so the question, if you're hanging out with, say, drags and like that, how can you really fly? How can you fly?
That's true. That's true.
You're not going to fly.
Yeah. No, that's very good. Very good. Because there's people that, and that even goes in just in the being, in the circle, right? If there are a bunch of negative people, that you got to watch what you allow in your spirit, because it's even within the words matter. I feel like that, and the frequency in which you vibrate on, all that matters.
Yes.
And you become the average of the 5 people you hang around most, whether you like it or not. But that's a reality, because you just said it becomes the DNA. You start taking on different traits of those people that you're around. It matters. This was good.
What's the rest of the Henry? We got to the E's, we got the N, the R, and the Y.
Okay, everything has a return, residual yield. Everything that when we deal with people, and see, I forgot to say weight. It's weights and drags. But when we deal with people, right, and the people that you choose to entertain, when they say iron sharpens iron, iron sharpens iron. Bottom line, But when you are dealing with people that say you can't do this, and I share this with you, when I was 6 years old, I was told, I had open heart surgery, and I was told that I shouldn't play sports. I went to college on a track scholarship. I was told when I was in the Air Force that I was too short to be on the Air Force drill team. 2 years later, I was drillsman of the year.
That's what
I was told years ago that I was too tall to be a bodybuilder. And back in the day, when I'm in my 30s, I was Mr. Packass. What's my point? Just like this shirt I'm wearing right here. This shirt says I'm a DEI hire. Right? And people automatically think that's negative. And what it says is, you know what? I'm dedicated. I'm educated, and I'm inspired. Bottom of this thing.
Come on now.
Yeah.
Love it.
So what the thing is,
But it's what you believe about yourself versus what somebody tells you.
Exactly.
That's a whole nother show.
That's
Don't
right.
get started,
Yes.
okay?
Yeah, I can go there.
Yes.
it's not what people tell you, what you choose to answer to. And we don't do the homework, and we stay an inch thick and a mile wide. Just like when people are now saying the buzzword, if you think about it, they're talking about, I'm 10 toes down. Okay? People don't understand. They're saying, you know what? I'm loyal and committed to my beliefs, my values, and my faith. No matter what adversaries come against me, I'm staying 10 toes down. So when we start looking at that, and like I said, when somebody can come to you, and why do we always explain ourselves? Why are we always trying to get people to like us? Talking about haters. And I pose this question all the time, especially to my kids. This all the time. I have some very independent, successful kids. Okay? They say, why? How did they get like that? I say, you know what? Because they understand who they are. They're not looking for anyone to justify, their existence. And I like my son who's down at Montverde Academy down in Orlando right now. And he's home now. But the thing is, I tell him, he said, well, people say, Dad, I go to this school, this and that or whatever, yada, yada. I said, okay, that's fine. I said, son, let me explain something to you. Let me explain something about haters that you have to understand. He said, what, Dad? What is this? When have you ever met a hater that's living a life you want to live?
Exactly.
Never.
That's right.
Most of the people that will tear you down, if you really look at them, they're not remotely where you're going. They're not headed on that path. They're always people that can have a comment about something, but you don't see them doing anything.
Don't go there, because I'm going to post something about that. Don't give too much information.
I do have one question I have to ask you, because you brewed it up, okay? And I don't mean any disrespect whatsoever, but what is your take on all these African American women feeling like they need to have this doctor in front of their name?
Are you asking
we
me?
have. I can answer that. I can answer that. Okay.
Do you see what I see? I mean, it just seems like it's been a surge.
I see. Let me explain. We are still dealing with a 1974 mentality.
Right.
Okay. And if you think I'm playing, go somewhere and look at USA Jobs. Okay. And go to qualifications. Okay. Most jobs in the government now, when it comes to qualifications, says education and or experience. Okay. I know a lady right now, she's maybe 63. Okay. Said, I'm trying to finish up my PhD. I'm like, for what? What are you going to do? Are you just going to do this, X, Y, and Z, this and that, whatever? Maybe it's just your own personal goal. But sometimes what we do is that I have a friend who has a PhD, and her granddaughter has to call her doctor.
Wow.
Okay. Emphasis. We put all this emphasis there, but then again, what are we going to, my question is, you can have it, what are you going to do with it?
Right.
That's my question. What are you going to do with it?
I've encountered many recently that come across my path, and I feel like the idea of what they want to do is great, and then when it comes down to being able to get into my coaching program, there's no money, no resources, and I'm just sitting here going, well, what was the point? Because I can tell you this, I remember I did not get my MBA till I was 50. And you know why? Because every time I thought about getting it, I would ask the right people and they were like, you don't need it. You don't need it. Then when I found myself out of a job, for example, in 2008, everything I seen at my level was saying MBA preferred, preferred. They say preferred, but you know what they're really saying there, I mean, that can be a competitive advantage. And so I went back and got it. And I can honestly tell you that the next role that I got it because I know I had that MBA. So I was able, if you can capitalize on it, and it changed the trajectory of my financial situation. But if you're just getting it to get it just because somebody can call you doctor, because what? I just feel like we need to know we are enough the way we are. I'm not going to get a PhD. That's just not my desire. It's so much to learn out here just with the technology for me. But if you're really not a researcher, if you're really not doing something, I'm just sort of questioning why it is. I went into a room the other day and was invited to do something, and everybody, they started, and this is Dr. such and such, this is Dr. such and such, this is and it just was like, I feel like we're diluting the significance and the importance of really having that doctorate, because from where I came from, the pharmaceutical industry, that meant you did a lot of research. You were a scientist. You were, you get it in different fields, or you were truly an educator and a professor. I just don't get it. And then there's honorary doctor. And I'm not saying people don't deserve them, but I'm just asking your opinion because it's blowing my mind. And I just hope it's not tied to the fact that we feel like if we have that, then people will accept us.
Right.
Well, you might have answered your question. That's what it is. It's trying to be identified. I'm gonna let you finish too, Skip. You're trying to get acceptance into a society where you were once not accepted. Go ahead, Skip.
Unfortunately, when I'm talking about that social ecological model and things that we get taught, and we think the higher our education, the more important we're going to, like you said, being accepted. Okay, with that, most people know me professionally as Skip Johnson. You know why it's Skip Johnson? Any idea at all? Professionally, most in my profession, all over the world know me as Skip Johnson.
Wow.
The reason why is cultural neutral. I've been many places, but people have just only seen me on a phone call, maybe a Teams call, because we don't show our videos, this and that and so forth. And they'd be like, oh man, that's a brother. I never knew that. So often, okay, we are thinking that if I get this doctorate degree, I get this down, whatever, okay, I'm going to be accepted. In the world that I live in, it's maybe about 4 people who look like me.
Right.
At the level that is level I'm at. Okay, with that, I challenge people and I try to show people, okay, when you start talking about your professional development, I ask them, okay, what does your IDP look like? That's your individual development plan. Show me how that works in your narrative to get you to the level that you need to get to. What you're trying to do. Most of us don't have a plan. Most of us say, if I just get this degree, I get this, it's going to be, it doesn't work like that.
Right.
That's right.
Okay. What do you do to enhance your intellectual property? And what I'm saying is, I don't have to know everything, but I should know a little bit about a lot of things. That's going to make me more valuable.
That's a good wrap there.
Yeah.
Make you more valuable.
Skip.
Yeah.
Let me ask our celebrity co-host, does she have any questions before we get ready to wrap up?
I have lots of questions, but
You're minimized. You can ask them a few.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It was so great to meet you, Skip. Thanks so much for being here.
Do you have a question for him before we wrap up? Skip, before we wrap up, my question is this. We provided some great information on the show today, but the end game is, what do you want people to get from this message today?
The message I would like for people to get is this: stop talking about it. Stop waiting on the system of the government to give you something. What does it take for you to be innovative and create your own narrative and your own story. Once you start creating your own narrative and your own story, because we have to look at this. We have to really look at this right here. That life is no more than a do-it-yourself project, right? Life is no more than, I'm going to tell you what I mean by that. Life is no more than a do-it-yourself project. And I think I told you this story before. It was about a guy who had been building houses for 30 years.
Oh, yeah.
Building houses for 30 years. Right?
Yeah.
Right? This guy decided to retire. And when he decided to retire, the construction manager said, I want you to build one more house. That's all I want you to do. Build one more house. So reluctantly, this guy said, yes, I'm going to build the house. He didn't use the crew that he usually used, his ride or dies, right? He used shoddy material and he rushed the job. Once he finished building that house, he went and gave the owner the keys and said, this is the last house I'm going to build. I'm going to retire. The owner gave the keys back to him and said, thank you for 30 years of service. This house is for you. What's my point? Too many people, way too many people spend more time trying to build their own house and not taking care of their own.
That was too.
So the thing is, you can point at somebody. You got one finger pointed at one person. One tends to be up, but you got three pointed at yourself. So you need to take time to look at four things. Okay, you look at your problems, your needs, your strengths, and your weaknesses. You look at that and be honest with yourself, and then you can start navigating through this thing called life. Like I said before, what we want to do is, instead of trying to add years to our life, we want to add life to our years. Because too many people not living, man. They're not.
That's right.
You know, based upon things that they've done that's self-inflicted.
Yeah,
So
people
you
die
have
before
to
they're dead.
Yeah, you have to take responsibility for your life, your mental hygiene, your personal relationships, and so forth. And you can always be a better version of yourself. And that's how you embrace what I call your 86,400. And that's no more than a amount of seconds in one day. And the question I always say is, what are you doing with your 86,400?
Skip.
It's something to think about.
A damn sure something to think about for real. Before we end, how can the viewers reach out to you? Because I know that you love to help individuals understand who they are, along with what you do, Yolanda, the brand to business, along with what you also do, Amy, with your story. But how can the viewers reach out to you, Skip?
Actually, I have so many people reach out, say, I get my personal email all the time. It's not a big deal to me because I reach out to people and people reach out to me all the time. And this noobskip05@yahoo.com. Just hit me up. We can chit chat about different things, talk about strategies. We can do things, because sometimes people, like I said before, just need a flower, man. Sometimes just give them a flower when they're alive. That, you know what? At the end of the day, and I tell women this all the time. Women look for safety and security. All right. And guess what men look for sometimes? Hey, brother, it's going to be okay. I'm there for you.
Yeah.
Just being there. Okay. And we have to do that. So if you think about it like that, and just think about from the perspective, if I have one stick and I try to break it, I can break that stick. But if I have about 50 sticks bound together, I ain't breaking all them sticks. It's not going to happen. So it's collectively, what are we doing to navigate forward? That's the most important thing. Is how we're navigating in this thing called life.
I appreciate that. Ladies, thank you so much for taking time to come on the show. Skip, thank you so much for coming on the show. Definitely going to have you come back because you always definitely have a lot of good information that you want to share all the time on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another exciting episode of the Andre the Beast Crayton show.